I would like to make another toast to the coterie at the palace.
An intentional community.
Our coterie residents must make some big decisions, so let's break down season 1 finale of Good Trouble and find out just what happened. What's going on, you lovely people? Lisa here, and the first season of Good Trouble has now come to an end. While aspects of some characters' storylines wrap up, others are still left open heading into season 2, including the one the show teases the most. Will Callie pick Gael or Jamie? Seriously, I kind of had the feeling they wouldn't give us that answer in the finale because, you know, they want us to watch season 2, but I kind of wanted them to because it's been so drawn out, I feel like, but, yeah. Instead, we get Callie contemplating her decision with a really weirdly intriguing dance dream sequence, and it makes me wonder if it was just Dream Dance Sequence Week here on Freeform, because this week's episode of Shadowhunters also had one of those. Anyway, let's just go ahead and find out what happened to all our characters in this season 1 finale. First up, we'll talk about the big cliffhanger from the last episode, which was, is Dennis still alive? And the answer to that is thankfully yes. So after Davia leaves a ton of messages, she finally gets an answer from Dennis, and she goes to visit him at what seems like a hospital or maybe like a rehab center of sorts to see him, and he explains that he was going to drive off a cliff. But then he kept hearing all these voices of why he shouldn't, and one of those voices that pulled him back was actually Davia's. And he also started to think about what his son Jacob would say if he went through with it, and he just couldn't, so he ended up driving to check himself into a 48-hour hold. So we really get to see Davia and Dennis, their bond, the strength of how their relationship has grown over the course of the show, and it's really nice to see that they're there for each other. They understand each other. But when the rest of the coterie do ask if she's heard from Dennis, Davia does keep it private and just says Dennis called her and he's on a road trip with bad reception. Now elsewhere in Davia's life, she comes to a decision about Jeff, and helping her make that decision is her student Vivian, who we met previously. Vivian shows up at the coterie asking if she can again hang out there because her dad's working late, and Davia lets her, and then Davia starts to ask Vivian a little bit more about her life, to feel out the situation, about, you know, thinking about what Malika told her and all of that. And we learned that Vivian's mom died a while ago, but she says she lives in a house with her dad, but he's just working so much. And then she gets a text from her dad, and Davia actually asks if he can come up so that she can meet him, you know, kind of to prove that he's real. And then Davia sits down with Vivian's father and finds out that they did lose their house, and he's working multiple jobs to try to save up for an apartment. So right now they've been staying in shelters or with friends, but they're trying to make it work. And he asks Davia to please not call anyone because it's hard out there for a single parent to have to work so much, and he doesn't want to lose his daughter. Then he tells Davia that she's Vivian's favorite teacher, and actually the reason Vivian likes to go to school, which gives Davia this boost of confidence, especially, you know, since Jeff said last episode that she might not fit in LA. So Davia decides to stay in LA and extend her contract another year to get her master's in teaching. Then, of course, you gotta throw a wrench in the plans, because when Davia returns to her room one night, Jeff is standing there saying he finally left his wife, Lily, and he wanted to tell Davia in person. And all I gotta say is, Davia, please don't let this guy get a hold of you again. We don't have any proof yet. You gotta get proof that he's actually left his wife. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I get that she loves him and it's hard to let go of someone you care about so much, but it's just like, I don't think he's good for you. The lying, the cheating, all the things he's already done, not only to you, but to his ex-wife. Just, you're better than that, Davia. Listen to Dennis. Listen to what he said to you. Love yourself, you know. Be good to yourself. Next up, let's talk about Malika. So she misses the protest because she gets a call from Dom about a family emergency, and he's called her because their mom had a brain aneurysm and a stroke. Now the doctors say she has no brain activity, but Dom, he's really struggling and thinks the doctors are just telling them this and it's not true, and he doesn't want to pull the plug on their mom just yet. Now Malika tells Dom that she understands it's hard to let go of mom, but he thinks Malika would be actually happy if their mom was dead, but Malika says that's not true. Then Malika hears Vivian's dad and Davia talking, and if you remember previously, Malika and Davia had an argument over how to handle Vivian's situation. Davia obviously wanted to hear the situation out, meet Vivian's father, while Malika was like, I bet there's no father, or something like that, and that Davia needed to call child services right away. Well, now Malika hears out Vivian's dad, and she starts to understand the other side. and understand her mother a little better now. While she may not agree with, her mom turning to drugs and alcohol and the way things went, she now sees that her mom was actually trying to do her best and was working multiple jobs, and that stress did drive her, unfortunately, to those vices. But Malika has a new understanding, and, she actually tells Vivian and Vivian's dad that she was homeless once and it's nothing to be ashamed of. So then Malika now goes to see Dom at the hospital and explains how she now understands Mom's side of the situation, and she says that Dom and their mom were at peace and he was a good son, so he can feel good about, all of that. We also see Jamal's mom come visit Malika and apologizing for giving Malika kind of the wrong advice about having to act strong and not being able to have these, moments of weakness or breakdown. And she tells Malika it's okay to ask for help and to break down. You don't have to have that superwoman complex. And so Malika is able to lean on her for some support. And it seems like while she hasn't been able to necessarily make peace with her mom while she was alive, I think she's kind of made peace with the situation, and the relationships in Malika's life are now mending as, her eyes have been opened. And we see that Dom says he'll actually come to her graduation, and we do see Isaac come to see Malika, and Malika smiles. So it seems like Malika's doing good. All her relationships are back in order, and I'm excited to see how she goes moving forward. As for Callie, she's struggling with what to do in relation to the Jamal Thompson case, because the investigator does inform them that Officer Griffin, one of the defendants in the case, was one of the officers present when Chief Kelly made the comments about how it's cheaper for the department to let victims of police shootings die. So they think that the reason Griffin's files may have been kept sealed is because he confirmed hearing these comments during an internal investigation, and maybe Judge Wilson chose to seal those records as a way to help get Tate's charges dropped. So as the trial goes on, Callie struggles with what to do with this information, and at one point she's even tempted to break into Judge Wilson's desk and grab the file from the drawer that she remembers him placing it in. She actually doesn't do that, but you know what? This file makes its way to her anyways, as somebody drops the package off for her that has Griffin's personnel file. And now Callie is wrestling with herself about whether to give this information to Jamal's lawyers and leak it and risk her job and all of that, or whether to just let things play out. And so now Callie's stressing out with two big choices: what to do with that file and what to do about Gael and Jamie. So the stress causes that dance scene dream thing I mentioned earlier, which actually does look cool, and I give them props for dancing, but it also kind of feels a little awkward to me in this episode, but I could be the only one feeling that way. At the trial, Officer Griffin is called to the witness stand, and Jamal's lawyer brings up the personnel file, which causes the defense to object and approach the bench, and Jamal's lawyer says that new evidence has come to light, but the defense, of course, is like, well, this file was supposed to be sealed, it's already been ruled on. So they end up having to call a recess until the next day to reevaluate all the evidence, and Judge Wilson does shoot Callie a glance, kind of like, what did you do? And the episode ends with Mariana asking Callie if she's going to choose Gael or Jamie. And in relation to Gael, he does tell her this episode that he hasn't felt the way that he does about Callie with anyone in a very long time, and he regrets not fighting for her. But if Callie does have any doubts about Jamie, Gael will be waiting there for her. So yeah, with Callie's storyline wrapping up season 1, she doesn't make a choice about which guy she wants, but we also don't know 100% if she's the person who ended up leaking the files to Jamal's lawyer, and we don't even know who leaked the file to her. They kind of want you to think it's her, but part of me thinks maybe Judge Wilson did it, and maybe, who else could have had access to this file? I don't feel like Jamie could have done it, as he told Callie to not do anything impulsive to ruin her career. So you gotta wonder, who leaked all these files, and exactly why? Like, did Judge Wilson maybe do it to clear his conscience because he knew that Callie was hot on his trail there? Or, I don't know, did someone else dig it up? Or did Callie do it? Now let's move on to Alice. So Alice is scrambling to get everything set up for Sumi's wedding, and she gets thrown off when her parents show up out of the blue to drop off an engagement present for Sumi and to see where Alice lives. And she freaks out, kind of being like, oh, the wedding that's happening that I'm setting up for isn't for Sumi, it's for Mira and Gael, who happened to walk in the door at that time. But also Joey walks up, and Alice panics again and doesn't introduce Joey as Joey, but as someone who lives at the coterie named Joanna. So it seems like Alice may have, kept her parents from figuring anything out, but the drama grows as Sumi calls off the wedding, and Mira asks Alice if she knew. And, you know, Mira's kind of like, well, guess what? You got what you wanted. You can have her. You can marry her if you want. I mean, the wedding is all set up. But the most effed up thing about this is that Sumi broke the wedding off by text. Seriously, weren't they all in the same building? Could Sumi not just go talk to Mira? I know that would have been a tough conversation, but really, by text, Sumi, you are not winning any brownie points this whole season with anybody, honestly. Alice now thinks about what Mira said, but she realizes for sure that she is over Sumi and sits Sumi down to tell her so, saying that she's always gonna love Sumi, but it's gonna be in a best friend way. And so now that the whole Sumi situation seems under control, we've got the whole Joey situation. As Joey tells Alice that this relationship's not working anymore, especially because of the way that Alice introduced Joey as Joanna to her parents. And Joey says that Alice doesn't seem like she's even out to herself or at peace with being gay. So if Alice can't accept herself, how's she ever going to accept Joey? And of course, this prompts Alice to really think about things, and she decides to take a big step. She calls her parents, and she gets quite the surprise, though, when her parents already know everything. They ask Alice if she's sad because Sumi's marrying that girl Mira, and because Alice loved her, and they kind of actually say they knew about Alice for a long time, but we're just waiting for her to tell them. And they tell Alice that they love her and still, of course, want her to get married and have babies one day, you know. And then they tell Alice that Joanna girl seemed pretty nice. So I think they could tell there was something there with Alice and Joey. And this was definitely kind of a very emotional moment in this episode, because I don't think that's the way we really expected the scene to go, especially with how they've set up, you know, Alice's parents in the season so far, going back a few episodes to that dinner and how awkward that was. And you just didn't think that her parents would be as accepting, that they'd be super traditional. But I loved seeing, you know, seeing us proven wrong here, and her parents actually being accepting, because we know that's not obviously the case in every situation of people coming out, especially to a traditional household. But it was nice to see this, and I do hope things aren't over for Joey and Alice. And now let's move on to Mariana. So Evan wants to give Mariana a team to start on her app right away. And then she goes to see Angela to make sure that Angela's not trying to set her up by giving her the men's salary information. But Angela tells Mariana that she's been lied to at this company about how they wanted to change the culture, and she sees that maybe she's been part of that problem too. But she can't quit because she's a single mom, so she thinks that this is a way to force change, and the only way to do that is to publicly shame the men in charge. But no one can know Angela gave Mariana that information, or Angela would never work in this business again. So now Mariana is struggling with what to do. We kind of saw that obviously with Callie and the file for Officer Griffin. So does Mariana release this information and put her job in jeopardy, or does she hold on to it? Because now she's actually in a better place than she's ever been. She has this app deal. Evan talks to her. She thinks maybe now she can just go straight to Evan and actually tell him the problems, and maybe things will change, and it'll be a more positive effect that she has on the culture of Speculate with Evan and her app moving forward. And that seems to be the direction she's leaning towards, until she overhears Alex and Sam in the stairwell talking about Mariana and her app, and then comparing it to this Amanda situation we've heard about, and how Evan took an interest in Amanda, and then all of a sudden her app was toast, and then she was gone, and no one really knows exactly what happened. But now Mariana's kind of like, oh crap, that could be me in a second, especially when Raj tells Mariana what he's heard about the Amanda situation. Now Mariana decides that she's going to go with her gut, and she tells the women they're going to publish this spreadsheet. But there is one person who is not behind this, and that is Casey, who's against it because she has worked so long at the company to get to her director position or whatever, that she doesn't want to ruin that shot that she's got, because this could ruin the whole company if this is public knowledge. But Mariana and the other women decide to publish this information anyway, which of course makes Josh freak out, and he and Angela call a staff meeting, and Josh is livid because this is a huge PR problem for the company. And when one of the women is just like, well, why don't you just raise the salaries and solve this PR problem? Josh tries to play the victim, saying he didn't know about this disparity, and tries to pin all the blame on Angela, which does not fly with Mariana, who stands up to take the blame. But just as Josh is about to say she's fired, we get a scene that we've actually seen done multiple times in pop culture, but it's never not powerful, as Casey stands up to say that she's the one who did it. And then a bunch of other women, one by one, stand up saying that they're the ones who released the information. And then even Raj stands up saying he did it. And then Josh tries to tell all the people who stood up that they're fired, but Angela's kind of like, you wouldn't want to do that because that would actually be a PR nightmare. So then Evan walks in to be like, what's going on? And then things start to get worse for Josh as the women start to, who has Josh tried to kiss here roll call, and the hands just go flying up, and Josh again tries to play the victim saying it's a smear campaign, and it's just like, Josh, no Josh, good riddance to you, sir. Mariana then sits down with Evan and fesses up to being the one to expose everything, and she says maybe it'd be good for her to leave Speculate, but Evan actually says he doesn't want her to leave and that he's sorry things got this bad because he obviously doesn't like dealing with the administrative side of business and didn't know Josh had done all these things, but Josh is gone now and he wants Mariana to stay. But Mariana's thinking that she can actually leave and develop the activism app on her own, maybe do a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. But then Evan says that Mariana can leave if she wants, but unfortunately the idea for the app that she had that while under contract with Speculate, so that actually belongs to him and the company. So Mariana leaves, she can't make that app and will be back at square one. So she'll kind of lose everything. So now Mariana doesn't know what she should do, because if she stays at Speculate, she thinks things could be weird, because she does now start to think that Evan may like her in that way. So we'll kind of have to wait to see how this plays out with Mariana. But one thing she does do here in this episode is actually thank Raj for all his support and give him a kiss. So will Mirage actually be a thing in season 2 after fighting it for so long? Has she finally decided she likes Raj? Well, that actually ends season 1 of Good Trouble and all the big points of this episode. So Alice's over Sumi came out to her parents and went way better than expected, but unfortunately things with her and Joey aren't good right now. We have Malika making peace with her brother and kind of her whole situation with her mom, and realizing she doesn't need to do everything on her own. She doesn't have to be Superwoman, put on this brave face, and she can ask for help and lean on people. And her relationship with Isaac is also repairing. We have Mariana following her gut, and she did stand up for herself and the women of Speculate, and it seems like the culture may change to some degree, but if she doesn't know what to do, because if she leaves her job, you know, there goes her app that she's worked hard for. With Callie, she took a lot of big risks with her job as well in order to stay true to her beliefs, but it's kind of got her in a very tough spot, and we don't know what's going on with this file and who leaked it. For Dennis, he's finally also starting to deal with his grief, and Davia thinks she's found her calling as a teacher, but will she let Jeff go? For Gael, he's made progress with his art, obviously, and told Callie how he feels, and now he's just kind of got to sit and wait and see what Callie does with her choices. Is she going to choose Gael or Jamie? And all these choices we got to wait for next season. But thankfully, next season comes June 18th, which really isn't that far away. And I'm kind of excited for season 2. Season 1 was interesting. It took me a little while to get used to as far as the style of the show, and it's been a little bit up and down for me. But I have grown to like these characters. It's been an educational tool, no doubt, which I think is the best thing about this show, is that it's putting things that I think for someone like me who's not super into politics, and I don't read a lot of news because honestly it kind of makes me sad at this state and time, the show informs me about different issues and gives me the different viewpoints in a creative way and makes me want to go look up certain terms and certain cases. And I kind of love that about this show. It is in your face, but it's not too in your face, at least for me. And so that's kind of why I'm excited about season 2 and see where this goes, because I think season 1 was a little slow in the sense that we were establishing the characters we haven't known for so long. Callie and Mariana, we already knew for a long time. We were good with. But these new characters, you really had to establish them, and there were a lot, so some didn't get, their time to shine until later in the season. But now that we've got everybody kind of there, we can really, I feel like, dive into some of their pasts, also really progress with their relationships together. And one of my favorite things about this season finale was the scene of all of them on the roof together, because the coterie is, the saying of the coterie and how it's a place for community and family and people to be together. We really haven't seen all of them together a lot. So that was a nice little scene for this finale, especially since they're eating the wedding cake, and it just made me love this little family they have, you know. So I am excited for season 2, which kicks off June 18th. But that's all I got for you for this season 1 recap of Good Trouble. So I want to know what you loved about this finale and this first season, and maybe what you didn't love. What would you like to see changed in season 2? Which of these characters' storylines are you most excited to see, you know, developed? What choices do you think Mariana and Callie should make? Who do you think leaked those files? We obviously had a lot of Fosters, the Addams Foster family come back. Who do you want to see come back again? Is there any other character maybe from the Fosters who you think should pop up? You know, Aaron knows legal stuff. Could he pop up? And yeah, I think that's all I got right now. So I just want to say thank you for hanging out with me through all my recaps of season 1 of Good Trouble. I know some of them weren't on time. I know views have fluctuated, so I wasn't sure if I was going to keep doing them. But we stuck it out for season 1, and we will see how season 2 goes. But yeah, thank you guys for watching these. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Check out more of my videos right over here. And I got interviews, fun things all the time. Yeah, my name's Lisa. You guys are awesome.